Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back. If you came back, we had a little technical glitch. It is my fault. I hit the wrong button.
He's old, ladies and gentlemen.
This is what old age does. You hit the wrong button. So I thought I was going live. I thought I was like not going live and hit live. My apologies. Scott Fishman is here with us from TV Insider, Pro Wrestling Reporter. We are here. Lots to discuss on the hot topics. What's going on? We have not talked. So I think we should start with SmackDown. And we know that
Hold on. What is the update? I know people are wanting to know about your Canada update and Survivor Series. I feel like that's a storyline we have to update every week. So,
yes, let me tell you what's happening. And thank you for asking about that because I wasn't updating. Here's the update. Okay. Hotel room booked. Airline flight got. I have no passport. So what I have to do, tomorrow's the day.
Oh.
Call the U.S. Passport Agency because I'm traveling for less than 14 days. The only way I can make this happen is for them tomorrow to give me an appointment at the Federal Building here in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Where I have to walk in with my copy of my birth certificate, all the paperwork filled out, the money orders, everything.
Money orders?
It can be a check or money order, I think it said, but it has to be an expedited fee. So I think the whole thing is going to cost me like $280.
I hope the Survivor Series is like the best
that's
Survivor
not
Series
even
ever.
the problem. I said to them, here's the kick. I said to them, so am I going to get the passport then right there? And they go, well, most of the time.
Oh, you're not even guaranteed.
What do you mean most of the time? And they're like, well, it could be like a day or two or three, or maybe that day. Like they'll give me a number. I said, okay. I said, but the other thing was, I got conflicting customer service reps. First person said, well, did you ever have a passport? Yes, I did. I cannot find it. They go, well, then you have to report it as missing. And if you don't report it as missing, when you go, they're not going to give you the passport. I said, but it's been over 15 years. It's an old passport. It's no good. So I call another person and they're like, they don't know what they're talking about. You don't need to fill out any form. Just go. Lord. So my point to you here is, Scott, I don't know if I'll end up in Vancouver. Even if I spent the money, like, it's all up to the government. Like, will I get the passport? Yeah. But I'm set everywhere. That I've got a flight. But one other thing to share with you. When I got the flight, I did not realize that Survivor Series started at 3:30 Pacific time. So I'm thinking, oh, well, I need to make sure I'm there, don't leave on a 6 a.m. flight the next day. So I'm on a 2:30 flight the next day, but now I'm going to be, but Survivor Series ends early is what I'm saying. It's not like when we go and it get done at midnight.
So you're going to fly in the day before?
No, I'm going to fly in on a Thursday.
Okay, because Friday you want to.
We want Friday media day, hopefully.
Yeah.
And then Saturday's the show, and I was gonna leave at Sunday. My flight's at 2:30.
Okay, that's not too bad then.
So I'm just gonna have to hang out in the cold in Vancouver. But again, next week's show,
we will know.
Did this work?
It would be a Thanksgiving miracle.
Have you been? And then the other thing is, I didn't realize it was Thanksgiving. So I'm flying on Thanksgiving, which is actually supposed to be a good day to travel, right?
Yeah. As long as it's not the day before or the day after, I think you're set. That's one of the reasons why I haven't gone to the Survivor. Like, I think there was a couple years where I went to all the quote big shows. Like I went to Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and then I just can't finish it and go to Survivor. Like I haven't had that happen. It's just, with family stuff, but also just the thought of going into the airport and on Thanksgiving time. I cannot stand the Orlando airport. It's like the worst airport ever. So that's kind of already turning me off. So the thought of having to do that during a holiday peak season, I don't know. I can't.
I actually, okay. I do think I'm getting old, an addle brain, because I honestly thought, and you and I didn't talk about Thanksgiving when we talked about this. I thought Thanksgiving was next week. So when I was going all gung ho on this, I didn't realize. So now you're right. Now I'm kind of like,
I hope you didn't have any plans for Thanksgiving then.
No, I hate being stuck in airports for Thanksgiving. I haven't flown on Thanksgiving in years, and I avoid it.
Well, you may not, so we'll see what happens.
Right. So we'll have to see. I honestly don't know. What is this? Hi. Anyways, now I watched SmackDown because I'm thinking this is the big match I'm gonna see if I find a passport. and get through. The good thing is, Scott, I don't really spend Thanksgiving with anybody here because my family is in Wisconsin, and if I'm here anyways, it's not like I'm going to be going to like somebody's house for Thanksgiving that I don't usually do anything. So I guess it's better being in Vancouver in the cold, watching wrestling. I don't know. Yeah. So there you go. We've got this whole build on SmackDown, and it ends up being that Sami saves Roman and puts up the one, and they're all back together. Did you like it? Did you feel it was forced? Do you feel like it's playing out in great timing? How do you feel that? And I'll get to Seth Rollins in a minute, but I want to know what you thought of the Sami coming together.
Yeah, I think they've been telling the story they needed some sort of story to build some intrigue going into the Survivor Series with all these weeks leading up to it. So I think it was fine. I think it's interesting though that they have kind of transitioned from the 4-on-4 to now the idea of having a 5-on-5. That kind of seems a little forced to me. Like I feel like they should have just kept it the way it was. I feel like you don't really need to have the fifth person in this scenario, but until I see the story actually play out is when I can see if it was a good decision or not. But this is where I'm standing right now. But the way things might unfold may change my mind leading into, the actual show itself.
Right. That was my question for you. So this is what was weird. They're like the fifth man, right? And was it Sami? Is it Sami? But it's not Sami because he's going to be with the original Bloodline. So now we're 4-on-4. Do you think it is used? But obviously now it's got to be 5-on-5, I guess, because everyone was asking Seth.
Yeah, and then
and I was really excited for a moment because I was like, because it would be kind of cool if would Seth team up with Roman, and then is that the swerve? Something goes down.
Well, he said he wouldn't team with Roman again, so something's got to change drastically. Maybe Bronson sits on the other side of things, and I guess we're going to see what happens when it plays out on Monday when those two face each other again on Raw. But
clarify, you mean Bronson and Seth?
Bronson and Seth are scheduled to face each other on Raw on Monday, so that'll be very telling if that's going to lead into something with Survivor Series. But I do like them revisiting the dynamic between Roman and Seth. I feel like there's a lot to dig into with all the history.
I'm so glad you said that, and I so appreciate you saying that. I want to see the history is there. This is great soap opera. Like you need to tell their story because there's the stabbing in the back and what Seth did to Roman and the chair. Like if they were smart, they would revisit this. If a soap opera can do it every 10 years, I mean, it's time to revisit it.
And I think it's hilarious though. Like, and Roman can come to this, or one of them can come to this, is the fact that Seth is talking about Roman and all this. Meanwhile, he's the guy that imploded the Shield to begin with. He's the one that set the wheels in motion. It's his fault. All of this has happened in the first place. He should be looking in the mirror.
That's what's so weird. How can Seth be like, you're the one that Roman?
Yeah, I think though, as far as like what we're going to see leading into Survivor Series, maybe even as soon as this week, I don't know, but we're going to see Paul Heyman come into the fold, and he's going to play the peacemaker. He's going to rally the troops, and he's going to get everybody together on the same page, whoever this team is going into Survivor Series. That is kind of what I'm seeing here.
But if there is a 5-on-5, my question for you is, who else could you see, if it's not Seth with Solo's group, who's in Solo's group?
Yeah. Well, I would say Bronson Reed. I mean, that's the obvious with the one. Seth is gonna hate Bronson so badly.
Rikishi.
he did it for The Rock. He's gonna do it for The Rock.
Right. So Rikishi comes on that podcast, and doesn't he trash Sami Zayn basically? Like, Sami's not that great, and he's playing into the story. So
yeah.
Is Rikishi going to somehow be a part of this? Not, let's say, being on the 5-on-5, but eventually we're going to get, I believe, Rock, the whole group, everybody's back for WrestleMania. Rikishi, Rock. Why did he say that if there's not something going on?
I mean, Rikishi over the years, he'll say things here and there, like what he was talking about Jimmy Uso, and then he said about Jey Uso not being used, and he's the dad, of course. So, but this is the pro wrestling business, and he comes from that old school train of thought. Could he be trying to book himself into an angle? Is there more to the story, or he's just kind of trying to get attention? So
I'm saying,
love Rikishi, but yeah. So I think that is what we're kind of nearing towards, that sort of scenario playing out.
When you saw, Scott, when you were watching as a viewer, okay, and you were watching this, when they all put the one sign up, were you like, oh my God? Or were you like,
I don't know. I was excited about it, and that's a great visual. I like.
Oh my gosh, and I have that visual. Yes, I will.
I always think of ET though when whenever I see this, I'm like, ET phone home. So yeah, that's kind of what I get out of when I see the. So
you see them doing, yeah.
I think they're phoning home. So. Where's the photo you promised that? I mean, I'm sure it's framed in your house somewhere too. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it is framed in my house. The funny thing is, though,
that would be a hell of an autograph, though. By the way, sorry about that.
It would be. It would be. I was gonna say, Roman was a little hamming it up a bit, because when he was older, like his mouth when he wants he wants to show that he doesn't think this is great. Like he does this mouth. But I do love Roman, but it was just kind of like. I just hope to God that this doesn't turn out, and this is my question for your opinion. Is this going to turn out that Roman's going to end up being a heel again, and like once he gets the Ulafala back, it's like back to the old Roman?
I don't know. I feel like that would not. I mean, I think people love him so much, and there's so much opportunity here. I don't think now would be the right time for this. I mean, I think he just came back, and they're trying to get the wheels in motion again. So I wouldn't like to see that. If anything, it would be awesome to see Sami Zayn, like you were talking about earlier, last week I think it was, kind of do that turn. But
yes.
He's just mega popular right now too. So, but I think that's what the more I was thinking about in the last week, I was like, wow, what a reaction! Like that would just like.
That's the ticket.
Kids would be crying about that. Like that would be the move.
I know. And the thing is now I'm thinking about it, whether I make it to Thanksgiving in Vancouver, isn't Sami from Canada?
Yes.
So would he actually do a heel turn in Canada? That would get everyone pissed. So that'd be kind of interesting. But I love the idea of Kevin Owens and Sami as heels.
Yeah. That's kind of intriguing.
Roman. Yeah, I think someone has to be the surprise to screw it up.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of drama to unfold in the War Games match itself.
And I don't think Bronson Reed is the person. I bet unless Seth comes in, I don't know. But I kind of like your thing with Seth and Bronson Reed as the fifth man.
And then Seth is so obsessed with Bronson Reed that he will put aside how much he dislikes Roman Reigns just to get in that cage and get him some revenge or whatever happens on Monday. I think that's kind of the motivation that would happen.
And then that leaves the other problem. So do we leave, then if all that happens, does Seth remain does everyone remain as popular as good guys? Seth, and because right now I see Seth is good, Roman is good, right? Cody is good. You just have so many big stars good.
Yeah, they need some. Yeah, they need some heaters. Yeah,
heel. Yeah.
Well, if they got to choose between Seth and Roman, I mean, for me, Seth is the natural heel all the time. So he's just been like, yeah, people like him and they like his music, but without his music, I feel like, it's easy to get Seth to kind of turn and fans not bat an eye. Question is, though, Drew McIntyre, what's going on with Drew? I know he's been out. Are we going to see him? CM Punk? So those are two guys I've been.
And I was and I was doing some reading, and I wanted to bring this up. It dovetails into. We learned that John Cena is going to be in the Royal Rumble. So that came out, I believe, today or yesterday. So if John Cena is in the Royal Rumble, right, is he not a viable winner for the Royal Rumble? That we're doing his farewell tour, and that he could win his 17th belt? And which belt would he go after? Because I was thinking Punk, McIntyre, like everybody comes back for Royal Rumble.
Yeah. I mean, that usually is around a time where we have comebacks. I mean, if you look back at some of the legendary comebacks, Triple H comes to mind recently for me for the 2002. But seeing Cena winning the Royal Rumble, it is a little predictable if you do go that route, just because people are like, okay, he's coming back, his retirement. Of course, he's going to win the match. But if you remember, John Cena had some big Royal Rumble moments, including his return that nobody saw coming. That was a genuine shock when he came back at the Royal Rumble and won it. But would be a nice little moment. It's his last Royal Rumble, so what a way to go out in that sense.
Well,
there's a whole year to tell the story, so I don't know if they're going to just jump right into it.
Well, I agree with you. And when I remember being at the Royal Rumble last year with Candace sitting there. And I think we told you the story about how we couldn't recognize anybody's theme song entrance. But I remember watching it with Candace, and it was Punk and Cody, which we thought we were going to get. And it ended up predictable. It ended up with Cody winning. Although we thought maybe that originally Punk was scheduled to win or something. There was that mindset. And sometimes they do go predictable in WWE.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing from a storytelling component. Like sometimes you just
who would you want to win the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard for me to say. Who are you thinking?
I was originally thinking before Cena threw his hat in there that it was going to have to be Roman to go up against Cody. But then this whole Rock, unless the Rock, I mean, something's got to go with the Rock. And I think the Rock might show up at Survivor Series.
That'll, I think, happen. If Rock shows up at Survivor Series, like there's going to be something that kind of sets the tone usually. Even if it's just like a little, little Easter egg or something right at that show. And then they will revisit it leading into the road to WrestleMania. So as far as like me, who I want to see, it's kind of hard. Can you imagine if Dominic Mysterio wins the Royal Rumble? That would.
I think that would be amazing.
I mean, I would go like. There's been like hints of him trying to go for the title, and of course, it didn't happen for him this time around. But someone who you talk about getting a bad guy over. I mean, he's already so over with the crowd that him winning the Royal Rumble would be just like nuclear reaction. So,
and let me ask you this, and I wanted to also, because I love picking your brain on this stuff. when the thing went down with Judgment Day on Raw, and it was Finn Balor was pissed at Dominic. I mean, are they going to break them up?
There needs to be some sort of reshuffling or something.
Boring.
It's been they've been in a standstill now, and it's risking the group. Like the group has not been,
interesting.
I don't say interesting, but it's just been they've just been there. Like ever since like WrestleMania, and after that, it kind of picked up some steam, and then it just like has not been moving along. So something's got to give here. You have so many. The thing is, the problem, and AEW has had this issue before too, is when you have so many groups, it's sometimes or a lot of times there's groups that are just going to get lost in the shuffle, fall by the wayside, and the focus is going to turn to this one group or two groups. Like when there's so many groups, it's hard to keep attention on all of them. So that's what's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic is to me is just so great in his role. It's just, will they push him to do anything? And on that note, there was an interview. Here's Liv Morgan, part of Judgment Day, that she admitted, or she wanted to be an actress too, that she was going out for roles, and she was, there's other things she wants to do. And there was, I think it was with Chris Van Vliet, and wasn't she talking about like people compared her to Margot Robbie and her look wise and things like that? They were naming all these blondes. Michelle Pfeiffer, she was naming them. Emma Stone. It was just like, oh. But can you see Liv Morgan having an acting career?
I mean, she's already had a couple roles. I loved seeing her get murdered during the Chucky. It wasn't actually the show, but it was like in between the shows, like a little vignette, you could say, or something. It was part of the show, but like not in a sense. But she does, she has that look. I don't know how her acting chops are, but I know she definitely has a presence about her. It'll just take, the right role. And one of the things that all the wrestlers have is this kind of, they're wrestlers, like, can they act and stuff? And, even with all the history that we've seen from other wrestlers, it's always like, oh, a wrestler's going to be in a movie or a wrestler's going to be in a TV show. Like, it's gotten a little bit better, but it's always going to have that stigma attached to it. So it's going to come down to her, like, really breaking away and kind of finding the right part that works. But, she's big into horror movies, so I could see her going in that route and just being like one of those scream queens and like she did on Chucky and stuff like that. So that would be interesting. I know I've talked to her in the past. I know she's a big fan of Euphoria. So we have. Say it again.
Was she nice to you when you talked to her?
Oh yeah. I've talked to her a couple times. She's always great. But I remember having the conversation about her fandom for that show. So I could see her doing like independent movies too. So I don't know. She does have that look about her, but that in addition to being a wrestler and the comparisons to Margot Robbie's look, it'll be interesting if she's going for it. We haven't really had that many women come from pro wrestling and become, having those big acting careers. We've seen people try, but it hasn't worked out.
Now, Gunther and Damian Priest at Survivor Series seems to be the match. How do you feel about that? I was a little surprised they were going back to Damian Priest. Why do you think that's happening?
Well, depending on what you're reading, it seems like WWE is still very much high on Damian Priest and wanting to make it work with him. Like, I think I read somebody talk about him wearing a mask. I don't know what's right or what's wrong, and that kind of thing. But, I love Damian Priest's story, and
that's it. That's it. That's why, because his story is so great, his personal story, that he resonates probably with many people, and they should play that up.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing, like you said, I don't think they're doing it enough to build that connection. There's just something that's disconnect from fans of Damian Priest. And a lot of it could be the angles and how he's being put in the ring, and it could be all those things. It could be a bunch of things, but there's just something about that. And I think they needed an opponent for Gunther. And, there's that existing history, leading up earlier this year they could play off of. So it was an easy kind of scenario building into it. Do I see Damian going to dethrone Gunther right now? No, but they're going to have a pretty good match. So,
well, that in that match, there's going to be interference. And then you saw Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther go at it for a minute. So I'm wondering, do you think finally he will step out of the shadows and screw Gunther, even though Gunther will retain the title? Maybe there's a problem there that really, because he's been backburnered for a long time.
Oh yeah, he's always been like the henchman for him, and I think
step out.
Yeah, Ludwig Kaiser is really kind of broken out as far as like being an individual performer. I kind of compare it to Kyle Fletcher and what he's been doing. Like both of them have kind of done a great job of standing out, and I think the Ludwig's matches with Sheamus have really helped him with that. And people like Gunther, and it would be a natural progression because the fans respect Gunther. He's not doing like anything like that underhanded, because he's just being good at what he does, just good at his job and being this imposing figure in the ring. And that he just happens to be the villain in that sense, and just being real. So I think getting the audience to get behind Gunther, I think, would be a fairly easy transition, believe it or not.
I have to show you something. This is hilarious. So this is Robert and Holly were on General Hospital. That's Tristan Rogers and Emma Samms. They leave the show together. So Emma Samms finishes her run. She's done. Tristan Rogers, who's Robert Scorpio, leaves the show with her. People were not expecting it. Now, many are thinking that Tristan is sick in real life because he doesn't look well. But if you look on these comments, number 2, Johnny DeLuma, why is everyone leaving? You can't give every character the same storyline, all trying to find a way to abandon their family. Feels like Vince's WWE.
Oh,
so I thought that was interesting because it
was rinse and repeat all the time, same story.
So that's what I wanted to share. This Johnny DeLuna, who watches obviously General Hospital and WWE, it was just an endless loop of stories.
Yeah, and then just like WWE soap operas, same thing. When you have to do episodic television 52 weeks a year, it's gonna bound to have some repetition. I mean, it's just gonna happen. So
that's such a great comparison, because the amount of product these WWE, I mean, pro wrestling, and even you think about AEW, 3 shows a week on TV.
And soap operas.
Yeah, soap operas. 5 episodes. Yeah, it's very comparison. Now, I want to talk AEW. I have some thoughts. I really first wanted to tell you, don't kill me, everybody. I watched AEW Dynamite last night, and I had some big issues with it. Technically, I had problems with it. Production-wise, I heard sound problems. I thought some of the stuff looked weird. I thought some of the segments didn't flow right. I just was like, what is going on? And it just came across a bit clunky to me last night. It just like things were off, in my opinion. And then this Jon Moxley Death Riders thing. I'm not liking it. Am I missing something? Like, what am I now they're called the Death Riders. Weren't they the BCC? When did they become the Death Riders? And then I was reading that John has been given the permission by Tony Khan to kind of do what he wants with the story, like trusting him with how he wants to do the story. But it doesn't feel like an NWO takeover yet. I don't know what they're like.
I think the problem too is that I think remember that graphic? It said Jon Moxley takes over the Superstation. What the hell does that? I thought it was going to be like he's going to like break into Big Bang Theory. He's going to he's going to cut into the different shows. I that's the vibe I was getting, or like you said, like an NWO type thing where his people are just going to take over commentary, or they're going to do something that would make it seem like they're actually taking over the show. And just having it made no sense at all to me.
And what's really bugging me too. Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, how great they positioned Sting against the NWO. That was just an amazing, amazing, best story ever. Sting and the, Crow Sting and the, that whole thing. You're telling me and I love Orange Cassidy, but you're telling me Orange Cassidy is your Sting against these guys? Like, something is not working. And then what really I don't like is that they hop in their truck and leave they beat everyone. They hop in the truck and drive out. Like, what? Why
is Tony Khan, like, if you're a part of the story, I mean, why is Tony Khan like not trying to do something about it? Or Christopher Daniels? It makes Christopher Daniels look like a lame duck. Like, he's literally just letting things happen. And
the only way to redeem this, and I don't mean really, but Tony Khan would have to, like Eric Bischoff was, he had to be in on it. Like, Tony Khan would now have to be the bad. He'd have to be bad Tony, who's in on it. Like, we're taking this over, but I can't figure out how they would make that work. Like, Tony.
Well, it would be easy. Like, nobody stood up for me. I got beat up by the Young Bucks.
Perfect.
Everyone just stood there. They just let it happen. I had a neck brace on. I almost got really seriously hurt. And I'm paying all of you guys, and you should be standing by me as your boss, and it's not happening. So,
perfect.
But can he pull that off? That like, Tony isn't really a TV character, and I don't think he wants to be. But that would be like, if you're gonna play off that scenario. What I think, my theory is, maybe they thought that maybe he's still coming in. I don't know, but maybe they were very confident that Shane McMahon was going to be coming in at the end of the story. And it didn't happen, so they had to pivot, and they kind of had to think about how they're going to continue this and not make it look like that. And maybe that's why they're kind of like going all over the place when it comes to this.
Well, that's a really great theory too. I'm telling you, we need to write this. But I was going to say, that's just one of the problems I have. So if that's your main story and Moxley's your champ, and you're just having random beat-ups, jumping in a truck, and what he says, kind of in his promo, like, I don't even understand what his problem is. Like, what is
that's the problem? They haven't really kind of put it out there. The fans need to know. Like, all this vagueness. Like, you need to put it out there. You need to show.
Why does he have a problem with? Okay, Scott. Why does he have a problem with Orange Cassidy? Why?
Because he represents what he hates, like that generation or that kind of form of
good people. Like, what do you mean? So, and then Orange Cassidy, and I did this to Chuck Taylor. Chuck Taylor. Like, does anyone care? Like, I'm just confused where the big story.
Like, I think Orange Cassidy has actually been doing a respectable job in kind of taking what he's been given. And I love the subtlety of him wearing the black shirt and all in black. That's great. But the role, like when you're cast in a role, like, does it fit you or not? And this one is like, fans love Orange Cassidy, but him being the savior, leading the charge. The same for Darby Allin. No offense to Darby Allin, but it just doesn't come off like, oh, I'm really wanting to see this happen. Like, you're just not that interested.
The only way, again, if you really want to spin this on its ear and get people talking, Orange Cassidy ends up joining the Death Ride.
Yes. Like, that would change things.
Right.
But another thing that needs to happen is, it's interesting because I think AEW is having the opposite problem that WWE is having, where WWE is lacking on the bad guys and AEW is lacking on the good guys that are viable good guys. So I think they're both having like similar issues. It's funny that just came to me.
Yeah, and what's really weird is I don't know, and I want to get to this whole Adam Cole thing and the Roderick. I'm like, wait, who's good, who's bad? I don't know what's going on. Like, who am I? Right?
Yeah, Adam Cole, after so many months and all that with Roderick Strong and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and then we don't even know where the hell Wardlow went. Like, they don't even explain that. With at least giving some reasoning, like he just vanished into the thin air.
Hold on. What about Powerhouse Hobbs is now a good guy? I'm like, what did that happen?
Give me some sort of connection. Right, exactly.
I don't understand what's going on.
That's the problem. You just put it out. Like, for me, I was I actually liked you talk about the flow of the show. I liked how one story went into another story, went to another, like one match went to another match. Like it doesn't have to be every show, but I liked kind of having that vibe. But I know a lot of it was disconnected, but I get what they were trying to do. So maybe we're in like an experimental phase of AEW where they're gonna kind of see what works every week by trying different things. That's the only thing I can think of.
Right. I thought I got what they were trying to do. I'm not even commenting about like story. It just like technically the show, I felt like had some technical issues, like going from thing to thing. And I don't know, it just didn't feel gelled to me, or it felt more disjointed to me than normal. But I want it to be good. That's the thing. I want it to be good.
Another thing that really impacts the show, and it's so true, is the crowd. If the audience is not invested, or it just comes off as like you're in a library and it's quiet, it's gonna affect your experience at home. It just is. Like it just rubs off on you.
The other thing I wanted to say and get your thoughts on this. This is the other problem. MJF on a videotape thing, watching what's going on in the ring, and he paid them off with the. Why does this not feel? In the past, MJF's previous villain run, it felt menacing and cruel and awful. Now I'm like, what is this? Who cares? Why am I feeling that? Why?
Part of it is he's not been there physically. Like,
right.
There's something about him being there and not being there, like interacting with the crowd, having that work off the crowd. Like I get he's doing his. Speaking of movie careers, I mean, it looks like MJF is kind of building one for his own. He seems pretty busy with that, but that's kind of been detrimental in a sense of him not being there to build the story, and it's kind of like hurting the story, that whatever story they're kind of telling, and now they're having it where it's MJF against Roderick Strong at the pay-per-view, and it's like, I don't know. That's more of a Dynamite match to me, or a Rampage match. I don't know if that's like something I want to say.
Why would you have? Please tell me. We're all waiting for Adam Cole MJF. Why did you have him lose?
Yeah, I don't know. And what are they like? Adam Cole, since he's come back, just kind of has not been clicking either as much as it should. Like fans still love him. He gets the big reaction when he comes out to the ring, and they want to love him, but it's just maybe it's just getting the rust off. I don't know what it is, but it's not like popping now.
But it's even like how the MJF was so huge. I understand he's busy with other things, but none of this has seemed work. And where the hell is Ricky Starks?
He's hanging out with there's like a room where all these people are hanging out. I guess it's like a vortex. I don't know. That's where Wardlow is. There's Ricky Starks there.
But I'm like, where is this guy? And what are they doing?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't know. And then, so what do you think of Mercedes Moné's run? I'm even confused with that. Like, does all this stuff?
And then it's random because it's like they're fast forwarding to Camille turning on her because they need an opponent for her. It's like all of a sudden it went from like 0 to 100 already. It should have been like a subtle, it was going to happen eventually, but it feels like it's already like she's running through opponents so quickly that it's like, okay, we're going to get to Camille like right away, like at the next pay-per-view or something.
And I missed something, and you have to tell me. I did miss this. How did Hangman Adam Page end up with Christian Cage tag teaming? Did I miss what?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch Collision or Rampage because maybe that kind of built into that story. So that's the only kind of explanation I can get on that.
Okay, so now I want to ask you this: are you excited? I mean, do you like the idea of Swerve Strickland and Bobby Lashley?
I like the idea of it. I just don't think they've done enough to kind of get me excited for the match. I mean, the match itself is interesting to me just by the names and the talent involved, because I know they're going to deliver a great match, but I need to see more to get to it, to get to that match. We haven't really seen much of Bobby Lashley doing much. It's all been like MVP and him just standing there in like his stylish suits. So are they going to have Bobby Lashley wrestle leading into the show, or are they just going to like build it up? I need to see, maybe they need to put like a vignette together of his training, give people an idea. Don't assume that, everyone's watching WWE and they know who Bobby Lashley is and why he's such a threat to Swerve Strickland, like give us the reason why. I people are like, this is Bobby Lashley, a big time star here.
I think you just nailed it. I think there's the assumption. Now, if I'm a casual viewer, right, and I'm clicking the dial, or that's an old school thing to say, but going like this, now I'm watching it, and I see Bobby Lashley, and I've never watched WWE, and I'm on TBS and TNT or whatever, like they have other shows on there, and I don't know tell me who Bobby Lashley is. Tell me.
Right. That's the problem we've had in the past, and they've gotten a little better with it, with the video packages and vignettes. And actually, that's one of the pluses that I've noticed on not only Collision but on Dynamite. Julia Hart's comeback. I've loved those.
Oh, I love that.
Whoever produced those, well done. Like those have been amazing.
Well done.
Yeah,
I agree. We will give you kudos for that. I agree, and I like Julia Hart too. She's great.
But where is she going to be plugged in? That'll be interesting.
That's my problem. Because you've got some of these great... what's happening with Jamie Hayter? Like, she was a champ.
Yeah, she kind of just faded to the backdrop. And, Britt Baker, too, it doesn't seem like is doing a lot. So, but she just came back. But
they were doing that thing, too. Where they're like, well, something was wrong with Britt Baker. Was it a respiratory problem? She's moving slower. Like, I don't know what they're talking.
It was just an off night for everyone, it seemed. I don't know what to tell you.
What am I watching? And I love AEW. That's the thing.
Yeah, like, you want to see it succeed.
When I would fight with people, other wrestling fans, they're like, you're nuts. I go, no, I love AEW. They're like, and now but last night I felt it was off.
Like, I can't tell you, like, even my brother, he didn't watch WWE like a lot recently, and he would only watch AEW. So even he's kind of like feeling it a little bit about like just it's just in a lull right now, and it just needs something. I don't know. Kenny Omega waiting in the wings. As far as like someone on the opposite side of things, like Kenny Omega coming back, maybe bringing in the Young Bucks, and then they're kind of going against Jon Moxley. Like, hey, you're trying to take over everything we created. Like that intrigues me a little bit more. If that happens down the line, I know we're still coming off of what the Young Bucks did to Tony Khan and all that stuff. So that's why it plays well with Tony Khan turning bad, because people already want to boo him. And then the Young Bucks coming in and it's like, see, I told you we did the right thing by attacking him. Like there's a lot of potential there.
Right. But I think therein also lies a problem. There was a scene a couple Dynamites ago where like Moxley's group just brushed by the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, so what? So I'm like, you're the VPs and they're running the show. And, it's like, I think there needs to be, if they're going to make Moxley's group the bad group, then they got to be the bad group and not these other faction-y bad groups. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Kind of like you said about it. Like,
I don't know this.
What about Bryan Danielson? What's going to happen now?
I mean, he's enjoying his life. I've seen some photos with Brie and the kids, and
did he have his
doing their thing?
Going to do that?
That was the story when he was leaving. So I don't know. Maybe they're just preparing for that.
Is he gone?
I mean, he's gone for now. Like I can see him coming back for a match here and there, but he's probably just going to take a long sabbatical, well deserved. But it's at a sad time where they need him. To be honest, like they need some star power. Like,
and the other thing that bothered me is they keep Wheeler Yuta. They're like, Orange is upset that Wheeler and Wheeler's like, I like
Wheeler gets beaten up and he's like beaten
up, and then Wheeler's like I'm like, what?
Yeah, that I don't. I like the idea when they had Wheeler step in and like be the front, like when they had that turn and him back being with the, I liked that. But now ever since then, they just kind of dropped the ball again with him.
Before we get out of this topic, and we will in 1 second, was there a moment that I missed? When did he say, "Where are the Death Riders"? Like, how did we change from BCC to Death Riders? Was that made into a thing?
It wasn't. If it wasn't like fully brought to the forefront. I think one day it just name popped up, and they're gonna Well, in their defense, the NWO, it was for a long time. They didn't really acknowledge Kevin Nash and Scott Hall's names. Like, they weren't called Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, right?
Right. They were the
guys.
The outsiders. They were the outsiders.
Yeah. So, they just play on the names and see what happens. And it seems like they're trying to do like this biker gang thing without the bikes and, the grease, with the white shirts and the one plus though. I do like one positive I will say is Marina Shafir being a part of the group. I love the dynamic with her.
She makes the cool. Yes. She's the cool.
She makes it different. Like having her there was a perfect job because she wasn't doing very much. So having her there, it was a huge opportunity for her.
The only thing I wish we would have gotten is an explanation.
Yes.
How did Jon Moxley recruit her and what's the alliance?
We need some of that.
Please explain to me how this great lady ended up with your group. And I think you're right. It's the greaser group without the bikes.
It's like Sons of Anarchy meets Grease meets, I don't know.
The only thing that would make this better is if Renee Paquette joins the group.
That's another thing. Like, if you're going to blur the lines, that's something they haven't done, really.
Right. They never like to do that, it seems.
Why isn't she concerned for people like how John is? Because everyone knows she's with John on the show, even because they've talked about it. But
she needs to end up in the group.
Oh man, I don't know about that, but
I mean, I don't know. It's just like they have to do something. So, is there anything? Did you do any interviews recently that are coming out with any people?
I have no wrestling ones I have completed, but there are some irons in the fire that will be coming out soon. One that I'm really, really excited about that happened. That's going to come out that I'll be excited about. It's a bucket list opportunity for me. So I'm excited for that.
Has this happened yet, or it's going to happen?
It's kind of happened, but hasn't happened. It's kind of a little of both.
We know what that's like.
What about you?
I'm coming off. This has been a very difficult time. So, if you've seen on the YouTube channel, it was the red carpet of the Young and the Restless 13,000th episode celebration. Then it was the red carpet of the Day of Days 2024, and so I've had a lot of video interviews and a lot of that going up to not live because all that was taped, and then rolling those out to go in junction with the 59th anniversary of Days, the 13,000th episode of this. So it's been a lot of video content that's up on the Michael Fairman channel. And there's she plugged that we're on the channel. So now there's just some things like you were saying in the fire. I don't have a confirmation yet. So it's always typical because, as you know, in a TV show, they certainly want to plug it in when they can promote something or there's a tune in to it, right?
Yes, they want to attach to
something. I like talking to people even if there's not a tune in, but and to profile them. But it doesn't always work out that way.
No, but you gotta go with it.
Is there something that you're hoping happens here in the coming weeks with Full Gear? Because we only have it's the 23rd, so it's a week from Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, before Thanksgiving.
Maybe I should have gone to Full Gear they won't let me go. But it's in Indianapolis, right?
Full Gear. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Call an audible and go there.
Call an audible. Go take me off this plane.
It is in the USA. It is in the USA. So, but
do you think?
Oh, go ahead.
Is going to Canada? Do you think any of the wrestling journalists we know are going to Canada?
I've talked to one or two that aren't going, so I'm not sure who's going. But it's hard. It's Thanksgiving time, and it's Canada. They may not have a passport like you are having your issues, so it might be a lot of things. But it seems like they're going back to Canada again next year. They announced it in February, the Elimination Chamber or whatever is March, February. the Elimination Chamber will be in Toronto. So if you get your passport, you can go to that. So there's a plus.
Why do they not have matches here in LA anymore? Where are all the why not here?
Probably because it's expensive AF.
You mean for them to come to LA?
That and for people to go to LA. Like, well, I can't talk because they have Vegas, like WrestleMania, which I can't imagine how much a hotel for WrestleMania next year.
The only reason I said Survivor Series was because I knew this Bloodline thing. But number two, I'm like, oh, it's on the west side of the world.
True. Right. And War Games is pretty awesome. I love War Games.
Which is usually good.
Yeah. Except that needs to be, I don't care what anyone says, I need a top to the freaking cage. Like, that's the way I like War Games. That's the way I know War Games. I know people are like, story, whatever. I don't care.
You don't like the fact that they're crawling out.
Because then it's just a cage match. The point of a War Games is you can't get out. You're locked in with everyone. The match beyond begins. The door's closed. Everyone's in there. It's the drama and all that stuff. So that's my thing anyways.
All right. So I think we're going to have lots of updates next week. We're going to know whether I have a passport. Then we're going to have to decide whether I should even get on a plane for Thanksgiving.
Oh, if you get the passport, you better go on this.
Wait, so you would get on this plane. Okay, wait. If you got the passport, you still wouldn't go, right? Because it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Me, I'm not going. I have a passport. I'm not going.
No, but you wouldn't go even if you were me. You still would not go.
Well, for you went through all these hoops to get your passport, so I definitely think you should go. Plus, you missed SummerSlam. And you have to redeem yourself from your injury at WrestleMania. So this is like your comeback story. So your road to WrestleMania next year starts at Survivor Series. That's how it should be.
You're right. You're right.
But if you don't, you can always do at World's End in December because WWE and AEW are both going to be in my area because WWE is doing SmackDown in Tampa. And then they're going to be doing a live event the same time as the AEW pay-per-view.
You're talking about the end of December?
Yeah, December 28th.
Is that where you are?
Yeah, in Orlando. Mm-hmm. So Tampa's about an hour and a half away from me. So, but I just think it's crazy they're doing a live event at the same time as the pay-per-view. It's just, I was like, really? So, there's that. But if you don't go there, you can also go to that would be a cool thing. The day after Christmas, they got Madison Square Garden. That's their big show. I've always wanted to go like to a MSG WWE show after Christmas time.
Oh, I did that last year.
Oh, wow, really?
I went to the tour show in LA. It was great. I had so much fun.
Well, I mean MSG. I mean Madison Square Garden. That's like
no.
Yeah.
But here in LA, the Christmas tour, the holiday tour, the WWE holiday tour, I actually went with two friends and had so much fun. I was thinking, oh, this isn't going to be any good, but it really was.
Live events are awesome. I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago. It was like one of the best shows I've ever been to.
I had so much fun. I thought this is a great show.
That show I was on, was Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. So that was cool. That was before they brought it to television. So that was just like a fun match that everyone's like, oh my God, they're gonna have Cody Rhodes versus AJ. That's awesome.
Last thing I want to bring up before you go. So we're coming up on January soon. We're gonna see Raw on Netflix, and we are sure now it's 2 hours, or do we not know this?
I think it's being reported that both shows are going to be 3 hours, so we'll see how that sticks. But that's kind of the vibe that people have been giving off.
So wait, SmackDown's going to be 3 hours?
Yeah.
On USA?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I think 2 hours for a weekly wrestling show is a sweet spot. Anything more,
that's a perfect amount because then you don't feel like you're getting filler.
Yes, I actually brought that up on my X account where I was talking about. I feel like it's like pizza. Like you have it's so good, you're eating the slice, but you have this one slice left, and you could. But if you eat it, you're gonna get so stuffed, and you're not gonna really like pizza at the moment as you're eating it. So it might turn into that. That's what I see it with the wrestling and 3 hours of wrestling. once a month is fine. Like that makes the big events more special when those are 3 hours or those are more than 2 hours. That's what made, like, when I used to watch the pay-per-views back in the day, and the other shows are like an hour or so. And then that made it special that those pay-per-views are longer. Like, and then I remember, the Clash of the Champions and Saturday Night's Main Event. Those shows were awesome because you got to feel like, oh, these are bigger shows. But now they're so inclined to have the big matches on a weekly basis, it kind of lost that.
I have a question for you. When you were growing up, I think you told me this, but remember I was telling you that I was in AWA territory because I'm from the Midwest, and then I would go to Florida and watch Florida Championship Wrestling with my grandparents' house, and I'd see the SWA and Georgia Championship Wrestling. It was so cool. So all these territories and these different wrestlers, I was so excited. But for you growing up as a kid, since you're younger than me, what was that like? What did you watch?
Well, I felt like I used to watch with my grandfather back, like when I was younger. It was like towards the end of the 80s and early 90s, but I kind of fell out of it. I was like, I'm not going to watch that fake stuff watch that fake stuff. And then I went over to my friend's house.
Fake?
Huh? Wrestling? That's how I was feeling. I was like a kid, I was like, 11 years old. I thought it was like too cool, like for wrestling and all that, and 12 years old. And then I went to my friend's house and we were watching the shows. I watched and In Your House, I think it was like February of 96, where the Undertaker like came from the ring and he dragged Diesel under the ring. And then I was like, wow, this is so cool. And then I was also like, I was during the WCW period, where it was the Dungeon of Doom and the Four Horsemen. That also got me excited. And then the NWO, and it just kind of picked up from there. That kind of like got me a little bit back into it. So luckily I came back into it during like one of the best times, because that was like awesome during the Nitro Monday Night War with Nitro and Raw. ECW was coming in. So it was a really fun time.
And at what point did you start writing for wrestling?
So I probably, like, I was in high school. I was writing for my school paper. Right. I was one of the editors, so that's technically when I was first writing. Like I got to try to put anything I could in there. Like I wrote about WWE buying WCW, the XFL. Those are kind of the main things I wrote in the school newspaper. And then after college is when I first kind of really got the opportunity to write about wrestling, when I emailed my the editor there at the Miami Herald, and said, hey, I want to write for wrestling. How do I do that? And he basically was like, yeah, you can come, kind of like an internship. So kind of fell into an internship, because it's like, if you do the grunt work, like youth sports, I would call or take in like scores, like high school sports, youth sports, whatever it is, do these community news stuff. Then he would allow me to like write things. So my first kind of opportunity was talking to the independent wrestler. His name was David Babylon. He was like a local wrestler here. And then another one that I got to talk to first time his name was Antonio Banks, who you now know as MVP. So he was one of my first interviews, like when I was starting out, like writing about wrestling. And I remember it because, he was talking about coming out of prison, and he was like all the things that he overcame. And he was an independent worker at the time. He was nowhere signed to WWE at the moment. But I remember when it ran in the print, which I was really excited about, which I actually found I had it. I actually got a text from him or a phone call where he was like, thank you so much for covering me and telling my story. So that kind of got the wheels going from there. So
look at this. Tamatanga. Yee.
It should be yeet.
Yee.
Oh, by the way, real quick, did you see underrated? Jacob Fatu, man, his social media game, underrated, where he posted, thank you, Jesus, for waking me up, blessing me another day to love Solo. I love you, Solo.
I love that.
That was so great.
He's great. He's your star.
He's your breakout. We need more of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they need to little push that. So at some point, I mean, unless that's another thing, I don't know if they could do it so soon, but it'd be great to have him like screw up Solo. I don't think we're there yet.
No, we're gonna go there, I think, eventually. But
all right, Scott.
All right. Thanks. Had fun talking.
To be continued. I'm going to look for my
Good luck.
passport. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining us.